We're going to flesh that out as we go along. And then finally, we're going to give some actual framework and practical tools for you to take home. So when you think, oh, when I sit down and write a post, whether it be on Facebook or Instagram, that you could say, how do I do this well? And so we're going to give, again, frameworks and tools in order for you to take that back and do it at your parishes and organizations. So that would be great.
Awesome. So one thing that you may be asking yourself is, why social media? It seems to be all the rage. It seems to be something that all of our young people are on. But is it important for me, or is it important for everyone in my parish? And just a moment, a couple of seconds to share some data on social media. Just pulling this up for you so you can see, and got a lot of things going on. So right now in the world, there are 3.5 billion people worldwide who use social media every single day. That's 45% of the world's population. And it's kind of crazy to think about if the whole world's population, so from birth until death, 45% across the globe. And I can't help but thinking that those numbers in America are actually a lot larger. Mostly because if you think about our accessibility to technology, our ability to pick up a handheld mobile device, it's a lot more in America than it is in some other nations. So 3.5 billion people. I don't know, but when we think about evangelization and reaching people and teaching people about Jesus and bringing them into a relationship with him, maybe 100 years ago, we would go out to the street corners and we would meet people, or we would find people in a tavern like St. Dominic did, or we would find people in a church because that's where they went. St. Paul went to a pagan temple to find people and start talking about Jesus. So why social media? This is the new place. This is the place where people are. Whether they're actively looking for God or not, this is the place where we can meet them. And what's more, it's not like they're there for just a little bit. Julian, I'm going to ask you to see if you can make this full screen. They're not just there for a couple of seconds. In fact, people who are on social media today are there for 3 hours a day. That's huge. And if you think about 3 hours a day on average, that means that there are some people there who are there for a lot longer, and some people who are there for a bit shorter. Also, if you think about Generation Z, this is, if you go back to the Jason Dorsey, right, these are people who don't remember 9/11. So for Gen Z, our youngest generation, 95% of them have a smartphone. And over half of them use it for more than 5 hours a day. That is a ton of exposure. And I think too, sometimes we peg social media as the young people's thing, the Gen Z thing, the millennial thing. But what we're finding out is that actually 68% of United States adults are on Facebook. Not just on Facebook, I have an account, but are active users on Facebook. This means they're logging in multiple times a week to see what their grandkids are doing. I had a great story last week from someone who said, yeah, my 87-year-old mother is on Facebook all the time because she wants to know what her grandkids are doing or what's happening in the family. So social media may have been a young person's thing for a little bit, but right now it's an across-the-board thing. And also, social media is really, like I said, All right. So 2/3 of the generation is reviewing products online. We'll skip the point, thanks. Is reviewing products online before they purchase them. Before they decide to go to an event, they're going to read some things to see if it's worth going there. And another interesting statistic, 71% of all social media users, all of them, so not just Gen Z, who have a positive interaction with a product online or a brand online, recommend it to others. What's that mean for us? If people are positively interacting with us online, they're going to recommend us. They're going to spread the word to others. Funny little story, just to kind of liven it up a little bit. So there was a mom and her daughter. The mom, every once in a while, would go out shopping with their daughter and say, where would you like to go to eat? And they'd usually hem and haw that, and there wouldn't be a real clear winner, and eventually they just pick a restaurant and go. This particular time though, mom turns to her daughter and says, we've got McDonald's, we've got Taco Bell, we've got Starbucks, where do you want to be? And she said, Taco Bell. And her mom just kind of stopped and she said, what? That was a quick decision. Why did you decide Taco Bell? And she said, oh, Taco Bell liked my post the other day. Taco Bell made a connection with this person to make her feel known and cared for. And so she was ready to go back and give back to Taco Bell. Another interesting thing that kind of has come with Gen Z is a group of folks called social media influencers. These are people with a specific skill set or expertise, and they go online and post videos or post comments on social media. And Gen Z especially will follow these social media influencers. And the interesting thing is that social media influencers can make recommendations about things outside of their expertise area, but because Gen Z trusts them, they follow those recommendations. So the general trust about this particular area of expertise is extended to other areas. And that's why they're called influencers. The things that these people like or pay attention to are the things that folks who follow them, so Gen Z that follows them, will pay attention to. 46% of Gen Z follows not just one social media influencer. They're going to follow 10 or more social media influencers. That's kind of a big percentage of the population to be driving decisions. Thanks, Jillian. Off you go.
Yeah. Thank you, Kate. So we just covered, again, why is social media worth the investment? And as Kate said, it's where people are at from all generations. And so I think one question we have all the time is, as church, how are we then on social media? I think sometimes social media gets this negative perception, and definitely it's like the world. There's good and bad in it, for sure. But I kind of want to explain where our place is in that. So you walk with me through a quick metaphor here. Just kind of visualize, a dinner party or a parish event that you walk into, and you imagine all the, people there that you know or not so familiar with, people that you love, all in the same room. And then as you walk into the doorway, the host of said gathering hands you a flyer and puts it right in your face. It's like, please come to this, or please do that, and you're like, whoa, like, hello, how are you, And I think that that's what often we do on social media. Social media is like a party. It's a room that we walk into, and often as organizations or companies, we just say, hey, here's the date and time of this event, please come to this, or here's the next product that I need you to buy, please buy it, But instead, it would have a totally different feel if we walked in and said, hi, my name is, what's yours? What are you interested in? What's your family? What are your desires, your hopes, your fears? Where is God for you? Where are you on your journey? If we try to have posts and have content that's about connection, then that looks different than just distributing information about our parishes, constantly. And so, for instance, on our page, an example of this could be a couple weeks ago, we took some screenshots of youth ministers throughout our diocese, and are we good over there, Steve? Awesome. So we had a post where we took youth minister screenshots, and then someone wrote on there, "Oh, I didn't know that these were going on. Oh, I wish I knew ahead of time." And then we responded to that person that said, "Hi, so great for you to connect with us." And then we tagged those youth ministers, here they are. I hope that you connect with them and can find a youth group that, suits you and your family's needs. And if you need any further help, we're here for you. That's a moment of connection, but not only are we acknowledging this person and their hopes and desires on their faith journey, but then also connecting them with other ministers, other people in their church or in the diocese that can fill their desire to meet God in a deeper and personal way. And so that's what we mean by connection versus distribution. Again, that we are reaching out to people and hearing their hopes and dreams and connecting them with God and others so that they can deepen their own faith journey.
It's kind of like hearing their story.
Mm-hmm.
We want to know other people's stories, and they want to know our story. It's a normal part of who we are. I mean, I think a lot of people look at us and they say, "I can't do social media. I don't know the buttons to push. I don't know what a post is supposed to look like. How is it supposed to work?" But the fact of the matter is, social media is storytelling. It's telling our story as church so that other people can connect and be brought into the story of the whole church and the story of Christ's salvation for all of us. And then, storytelling is as old as the hills. It's been around since cavemen. They have been putting pictures on their wall and telling stories since the beginning. So if you were kind of wondering, like, okay, there are all these great statistics, Jillian's telling me a great metaphor, maybe I haven't used social media that way before, and I'm not sure I can. If you can tell a story, you can use social media. 100% guarantee it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so we hope that this gives you a good, idea of how we can go into this. And so when you sit down at your computer, we want to give you some 4 frameworks, 4 points, in order that when you sit down and write a post, that it's like, oh, I can do connection. I can tell the story of my parish. I can tell these faith-filled people around me their stories too.
Can I bust in one more?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. So you may be sitting here thinking, oh my goodness, I have to write all these notes. I have to get them all. If you registered for this webinar, we emailed you a nice graphic of every single one of these talking points. So if you heard the data I was talking about and kind of were scrambling to write it down, I'm sorry I didn't tell you that right at the beginning, but it's all there, along with some links to other places that you can find the same data that I did. So I put my sources on there. Jillian's framework is going to be on there too, and some of the tips that she gives you for increasing exposure is all going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
So, one, all right, use faces. Whenever we see posts, or bulletins or anything, often we see clip art. And clip art is fine, but I want to give you context for clip art in the terms of generations. So when clip art came out, I was in 6th grade, okay? And so some of you might be like, oh, I don't remember, clip art's okay. And it's like, well, when clip art came out, do you remember that version of Microsoft? It had Clippy. I don't know if any of you remember Clippy. He was this fun little paper clip that popped up on, the upper right-hand corner. It was like, oh, I'm here to help, whatever. And he was
I turned him into a dog all the time. He'd go and make the dog go like a tail.
Yeah, and so for some people, though, when that came out, that was in your professional life. And clip art was the new way to communicate and to attract people. And again, I was in 6th grade. I'm a millennial. So when we think of Gen Z, or people in high school, college age, they are like, clip art, what? Their capabilities of technology have been so advanced their whole lifetime, where they've been able to see nice Photoshop material and whatnot. So the quality of what they connect with is quite different than what millennials or older generations connect with. And so to use faces in your posts, is very important. It connects with us both on that technology level that I kind of talked about there generationally, but also psychologically. You know, when we see a face, you know, when we look at a person, it just hits home with us. We connect with it in such a personal way. And, you know, our churches are filled with people. They're filled with people who come there every week who have really just deep and lovely stories. You know, our priests are people. And so we have so many ways to connect on personal levels with our parishioners and with the world. And so we need to take advantage of faces, all right? Now, as ministers, there is times where maybe faces can be used with something. So for example, at my parish, we started a new ministry a couple months ago. It's called Pints with Padre. And you know, when you start any new ministry in the church, you start inviting people, people are like, well, how many people are going to be there? You know, you don't want to walk into a room and it's 3 people, right? There's always that kind of fear with the newness. And so at our first meeting, we had over 40 people there. And so when I was there, I definitely took a whole picture of the whole room so you could see the amount of people that was there. And so when we posted a follow-up to the event, Pints with Padre, the ministry, I showed a picture of that whole room to show, like, look, if you come to this next time, you won't be alone, right? There's a ton of people here. But also I did take some close-ups of people having warm interactions, smiles, laughter, right? So not that we abandoned the faces, but sometimes, right, there are good opportunities to combat the psychological nature we all have about new ministries or change, or what is this really going to be like?
So really, it's intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
So faces help us connect, but also know if there's some other obstacle that you're aware of that's going to keep people from connecting, take a picture that shows them that obstacle's not there.
Absolutely. So that's framework number 1, use faces. 2 is to tell the story. And again, this goes back to connection versus distribution. So instead of me going on there, I'll use this Pints with Padre example since we're rolling with it. And so instead of saying, hey, you know, this is the next meeting. Thanks everybody for coming. Here's the next meeting, month's time, you know, thank you. What I did was that night I went up to someone and said, hey, like, how was your experience? You know, did this connect with you? Did you find this meaningful? And I got this lovely quote from a woman that said, wow, this really touched me. I was able to ask questions that I didn't have any other place to go. And the room was warm and loving, and I didn't feel judged for, you know, coming in with, you know, a very minimal background. I'm an early convert here. So we really told her story and then said, hey, you know, if you would like to experience this community and come to this is the next month. Please come if you have any questions, you know? So we highlighted her and her story rather than just said, here's the date and time, please come. So telling the story, people can connect to that, those emotions of I walked into a room and I felt like I wasn't, you know, on par with other people, or, you know, like, yeah, I definitely want a community where I feel loved and supported and there's warmth and jovialness, you know? So telling the story is really important and can connect people in a different way than just giving the who, what, when, where, why that we're often used to on social media. So 1, use faces. 2, tell the story. The third point is
Can I guess?
Yes.
Okay. Let's continue the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Just like Kate did, right? So we used that example earlier of you can continue the conversation by commenting. You know, if someone says, oh, great, you know, or whatever, it's like, you know, you right on there, reply to them. I'm glad that you think that's great. If there's anything else that we can do to make this parish community, you know, fulfill your needs and desires, let us know. So just replying to people when they comment on your things, right? Or for example, if someone comments with a question, to definitely respond to it. But even if you pose another question to their question, you know, continue that conversation. Is there ways we can engage with each other that are ongoing rather than just yes, no, and shutting things down, right? Another way that you can reply to someone and continue the conversation is, like we said earlier, connect them with other people. Oh, hey, Barbara, you had that question and it's super good. Well, Susan responded to that same question last week. Maybe the two of you can meet up and have coffee and and talk about that. So continuing the conversation, not with just ourselves or us as ministers with others, but with people to people as well. That's also a way we can do it on social media. All right. So 1, use faces. 2, tell the story. 3, continue the conversation. And 4th and finally, be authentic. I think oftentimes, especially us older generations, we think, can I really do this? I didn't grow up with this. This is not my first language. Well, some millennials, we didn't grow up with this either. Oftentimes, I remember Facebook came out when I was in 8th grade. And so I got my first Facebook account when I was in high school. So we all have had to learn as this world has evolved, especially when new platforms, like I'm sure you all have heard of Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok is a new thing, and Twitter, right? So that there's all these new platforms that we've all had to learn throughout time. And that's okay. That's okay. But when we go on these platforms, that we are authentic. So for instance, I'm going to throw Kate under the bus here, Yeah, absolutely. Because one thing that I think we all, what's a hashtag or what's an emoji? And again, Kate has a really good story about her learning the emoji world as it is.
Yeah, so maybe you're already familiar with emojis, maybe not, but they're those little like smiley face things, or sometimes they look like people, or sometimes they look like whatever, all the little pictures that get sent in text and sometimes on social media. So that was not something that I grew up with. And I recently have been getting into the world of emojis, and I found a lot of fun new ones. And one time Jesse sent me this great article or something, I don't even remember what it was, and I loved it. So I found a smiley face that had little hearts for its eyes because I loved it, and that was a very cute, innocent thing to send her. So the next time I see Jessie, she's laughing, and she says, Kate, you should maybe know, just for next time, like everything's cool, but that emoji means like swooning love. Not like, oh, I love it, but like, oh my gosh, I want to marry you now. So not knowing that I had done that to Jesse, I was suddenly much more conscious of what I knew and didn't know about my emoji friends.
Right, and so when you think, oh, I'm going to be in charge of this, and I don't know all this stuff, it's all right. Just be authentic. Use your voice. Write it in the way that you're comfortable with it. And people will appreciate that much more than if you go on there and write something and then put 10 emojis after, because we think that's what we do in the social media world, or a million hashtags. That stuff is not as important as being authentic. Tell your true story, all right? Tell the story of your parish, okay? That's what's more important than anything, is to be authentic to who you are and the voice of yourself and the voice of your parish, okay? So that's our 4th point. Now, on the handout that you got, you see that there's tools, and we're not going to go into those. Those are a little bit more nitty-gritty. But if you need help with those, you can contact myself, Kate, anybody on the team, and we're happy to walk through with how to use those to best bolster your social media presence. All right? So I want to tie in now to what we talked earlier about connection versus distribution. So we kind of did that already with this framework to say, when you write a post, how do I do connection versus distribution? I want to tie it in as well as a social media person, as a user on Facebook or Instagram or any of the platforms. How do I, when I see a post that's done by my parish or an organization that I really care about, how do I help them make connection, versus just distribution? So on this lovely handout that you were given in your packet, it says on the top, connection.
Yeah, I can share it.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
It says connection versus distribution. So today we're only going to go over the Facebook platform of that, because again, Facebook is where most people are on of every generation. It's the biggest social media platform still today. And so I want to talk about that primarily. If there's someone out there that your parish does have an Instagram account or you're very active on there, I'm happy to, again, have one-on-ones about how do we do that on Instagram. But today, again, just going over Facebook. So Facebook has lovely algorithms where if you've ever logged in and you go to your feed or your wall right away, and you're like, how does that story get placed up there versus all the other stories? There's an algorithm that figures that out. And so we're about to kind of show you how that algorithm works today. So if you put a post out there for your parish and you want it to show up first on people's feed, comment. Comment is king, all right? Facebook prioritizes posts that have more comments above anything else. So when you see a post done by your parish, done by the diocese, an organization you care about, comment, all right? Because it will pop up not only on your feed higher, but other people's feeds higher that are either friends with them or associated with them. And so always comment on your parish's posts, okay?
Can I share just one thing about organic reach?
Yes.
Okay, so when I first started with Facebook and Instagram, I figured if somebody was following me, so if they clicked that they liked me or they were friends with me, that if I posted something on my wall, if they scrolled enough on their feed, if they scrolled through enough posts, eventually they would see mine. But that's not true. Facebook only shares my posts with 10% of my friends. 10%. But what commenting does is it tells Facebook this is actually important to other people. Facebook's in the business of connection. That's what it's trying to be as a social media platform. So at first, it's only going to show my posts to a couple of people because they're not sure people are going to connect with it. But then when other people start commenting on my posts or reacting to my posts, then Facebook goes, I think her post is important to others. And so then they share it with a couple more people, and their reaction tells Facebook either shut it down or share it with more. So it's really bizarre. I never thought that's how it worked. I thought it was like a big file folder, and if you sifted through it long enough, it would finally show up, but it doesn't. It like goes into la la land.
Absolutely.
If people don't comment.
Yes, yes. So commenting is king. One, comment on the posts that you like from your parish and from the diocese, okay? Next is sharing, all right? So commenting first, then sharing. So again, if you go on Facebook and you see in the bottom right-hand corner a post, you're gonna see that little icon that we have next to this handout here, that little arrow, you know, and you click on that and you share. That not only makes that post appear on your page, but again, Facebook prioritizes that and says, aha, right, this is important. Let's get this on more people's feeds and walls and have more people see this, okay? So commenting, sharing, and then the last piece is to reactions. And you might think, well, what is that, okay? Often you might be familiar with when Facebook first came out, and it's still there, right, just liking. We like someone, right? That thumbs up emoji, okay, we like something. That is, when you just merely like something, that's the least amount of interaction that you can have with a post versus obviously doing nothing with it. So what Facebook came up with a year or so ago, a couple of years ago, was if you kind of hold your cursor over that thumbs up, you're gonna see now, right, a heart, an angry face, a wild face, a laughing face. And those other, you know, what choices are called reactions, okay? So if you react to something by clicking a heart, by clicking a wow face, that is better than a like, okay? So that Facebook will prioritize the reactions over likes. So again, if you see something from your parish or the diocese, I often try to just heart everything then, right? Love everything, because again, that's better than just liking it or doing nothing, okay? So let's go through those connection things again. Commenting, sharing, reacting, okay? So that's what we want to do with our posts in order to make them, again, connect with more people, more of our friends, more people we don't know throughout our diocese, so they can see the message, the good word, the good news of our faith, all right, more and more. So that is connection versus distribution there, okay?
You may have noticed too that we were really prioritizing two different platforms. We were prioritizing Facebook and Instagram. And you may have some questions about why we picked those two, because do you know how many different platforms there are out there? Me either. I had no idea. So there are a ton of them. And so as we went through, we thought, okay, we want to make sure that we do social media well. It takes a lot of energy to do this story, conversation, picture thing. So we are not going to have energy to do more than probably two well. The reason that we chose Facebook is that it really is an intergenerational platform. Facebook is a place where generation, all of them. So you have traditionalists, baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Z, millennials, they're all on Facebook. Actually, for different reasons. Older generations, so millennials and older, are there to share and post and like. But younger generations, so the Gen Z, is there for something called Facebook events. And it's a special kind of tab under Facebook that lets you say, hey, I'm doing this thing here. Here's the date. Here's the time. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. But it also gives them the option to say, I'm going, I'm interested, but I'm not committing, and I'm not going at all. So it's kind of like an online reservation form as well as an information center. So Gen Z will go to Facebook for events. They're kind of a unique generation. Most generations kind of have one platform that they're comfortable with, and they do everything on that platform. But Gen Z, since they grew up with all kinds of platforms, we're finding that they're kind of making their own way. They're choosing a platform for specific purposes. So they'll go to Facebook for events. They'll go to Snapchat to share pictures and selfies and stuff like that, videos. They'll go to Instagram to follow brands. That's important to us because as churches, we know we are so much more than a brand, but that's the closest kind of category we fall into. And what are folks doing on Instagram for brands? They're trying to see if the brand cares about them. Is this brand authentic, and should I invest in it? And they do that for everything from the brand of their technology to the brand of, I don't know, their cosmetics. So they're on following brands, but they'll follow church brands on Instagram as well. So that's really a place where we can meet Gen Z in a unique way. A lot of people have said to us, everybody and their brother in Gen Z is on Snapchat. So why not Snapchat? If you're familiar with Snapchat, pictures or messages show up, or videos, for a short amount of time and then they disappear. So we really have safety concerns about Snapchat, and things don't stay around for a long time. So if we're really investing, we want to make sure that our message is there for a while. People can look at something that they maybe saw once again. So Snapchat was kind of not as much of a priority for us. We knew Facebook was a place where we could meet a bunch of people. Instagram was where Gen Z was going, was specializing to come for brand following. So we said, okay, that makes sense for reaching Gen Z and maybe some of the younger millennials who are also kind of learning that differentiation that Gen Z is kind of famous for right now. Twitter is another one. It became really famous like 4 years ago. People start quoting Twitter. But we decided, you know, Twitter's really a place for politics. And it's a place where people tend to get kind of heated about their conversation. So we thought if we're going to focus our energy and we want to create a really positive, welcoming environment, we were going to focus on Facebook and Instagram first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kate. Yeah, so you might be wondering, I cannot add this to the bullet point list of my job description or my to-do list, or how am I going to get this done? You know, this just seems like a whole lot more. So we really want to emphasize that you can double dip with your social media efforts and other efforts at your parish. You know, storytelling is vital, not just for social media, but for all of us to feel like that we actually belong to something, that we know what the purpose of this parish is, what this faith is, right? I mean, God is the best storyteller, right? That God tells us his own story every time we go to liturgy, right, in the Bible. So it's vital to our faith to share our story. You know, if people didn't share the story, right? The Bible wasn't written until around 50 years after, you know, that we get the first Gospels written. So storytelling is vital. If we haven't picked that up yet.
So it's neat because then you can see the way that storytelling changes through generations.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have a generation that's telling stories on social media. And there are posts that are good and they really would connect to folks who are not lifelong users of social media because that's the way they grew up telling stories. And then there are ways that connect better with a modern audience or an audience in younger generations. So we just have to be aware of all of those options. Want me to do the good, better, best?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So what we didn't want to do is give you these ideals and say, have a nice life, have fun. We wanted to actually be able to give you some examples of what this looks like. To do that, I'm going to refer to another handout that you'll have. And I'm going to pull it up right now for you so that you can see what it looks like. On this, I wanted to share a couple of examples of social media posts and then run them through our 4 frameworks. So the first one, just look right on your left-hand side. It's Random Act of Kindness Day. And what you may be able to read on that screen is just a little text above. It's a Facebook post. It says, today is Random Acts of Kindness Day. Please consider making a donation to show your kindness and support to those who serve at the Catholic Charities Office. Gives a little URL. Disclaimer, not our Catholic Charities. So this is another Catholic Charities. If we look at just this post, let's take it through our framework. First question, faces. Did we do faces? Nope. It's got some nice clip art on there that's really modern kind of clip art, but it doesn't have faces. Next step, let's tell the story. Did I tell some sort of a story about Catholic Charities? Not yet. I didn't see a story. Next one, continue the conversation. Is there a way for me to interact on this post?
Giving monies.
Giving monies. I can give the monies. So I can't do that. Maybe if I'm really invested in Catholic Charities and I know that comment is king, I could be like, hey, one time Catholic Charities helped this person. But there's not an invitation for that. Not even a story I can connect with that can say like, hey, you know, something like this happened to me or something like this happened to my friend. And the last one is being authentic. Yeah, I think it's authentic. We really do want to pay it forward and be kind. So it makes sense for us to donate to Catholic Charities. What could be better? We're going to take it up a notch. Okay. So in this post, right on the left-hand side, so we're just following it right down the column, it reads, Joe and his 2 children were doing great until he was laid off and his daughter Sarah was diagnosed with a serious health condition. She had emergency surgery and now Joe needed to figure out how to support his family and care for his daughter's new needs as a single father. Because of donors like you, Catholic Charities was able to help Joe with utility assistance, food, and transportation to get Sarah to therapy appointments. You can pay it forward at www.donatehere.org. That's totally made up. Don't donate there. So let's take it through our 4. Jillian, I'm going to put you to the test. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Is there a face?
Yeah, there's a face.
Woohoo! Is she cute?
Yeah, she's super cute.
Okay, yeah, we've got happy faces, so that's good. Second one, tell a story.
Yeah, there's a story.
There's a story. I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
How about the conversation part?
Not so much.
Same as the other one.
Yeah.
Donate here.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last one, authentic. Is it authentic?
Yeah, it's authentic.
Yes. If I didn't make up the story, it would be very authentic. So that's a better post. What would be even better?
Best.
It's probably not the best S, but it is under best. So let's look at it. You were there in my crisis, and I'm just happy there are programs like this to help families get back on their feet, Joe. And then the rest of the text is the same as the one above. Spoiler alert, Facebook only shows the first 2 or 3 lines of your posts. So those first 2 or 3 lines are really critical. Jillian, tell me about the picture.
It's faces for sure, and instead of just the close-up image of the girl smiling, this is kind of a moment in time.
Yeah, it's like something fun is happening in that picture. Mm-hmm. So if you can find a picture of a moment, if you have somebody who has that knack of just getting the expression, that's a great picture to include. Story.
Yes, there's a story and there's a quote. So then I feel, so I feel like I'm connected with Joe even more.
Yeah. How about connection? The continuing the conversation part.
Still a bit lacking, to be honest. You know,
even though it says best.
Yeah.
Not every post is going to be perfect, right? But posts can facilitate conversation. So hopefully this is facilitating connection, even if there's not a really great way to interact. Right. And the last one, authentic. Is it authentic?
Yes.
Yes. Woohoo. Okay, that's one example. But we all know you don't just do one thing. So let's run it through one more time and see how this progresses. So this on the right-hand side is an engagement encounter post. It's about the event that's going on right now. So greetings, this weekend's engagement from this week's engagement encounter. Please say a prayer for this wonderful opportunity for engaged couples who are preparing for the marriage of a lifetime. The next engagement encounter is in March, so invite your engaged friends and family to sign up at www.eriercd.org. Mm-hmm. Picture.
No faces.
No faces. How about, story?
Yeah, there's a story, not of a person, but yeah, it could be better. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good.
And how about it's conversation? Mm-hmm.
It prompts you to have conversations with your engaged friends to sign up, but there's no way to interact with that post itself.
Yeah. Okay. And so finally, authenticity.
Yes, it's authentic.
Awesome. Okay. Next. Let's try for better. Greetings from half of the team leading this weekend's engagement encounter. Please say a prayer for this wonderful opportunity for engaged couples. All of the team have great memories from their engagement encounter, including Kate's favorite, time to sit down with her fiance, a cup of hot cocoa, and get real serious about a game of Faces?
Yes, faces.
Awesome. How about a story?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a story. It doesn't necessarily connect to the people below itself, but there's a story that I like and that's nice.
Okay, cool. How about continuing the conversation?
Yes, praying, but again, not necessarily interacting with the post.
Awesome. And then authenticity?
Yes, authentic, yes.
Just as a spoiler alert, that is not Kate and her fiance below. It would be authentic if I really picked out Kate. So, Bess, this is a real post, and I'm going to call out Jessie because she posted this one on the engagement encounter weekend. There she goes. And it was one of our most engaged posts. We had 302 people comment or love the post. Greetings from half of the team leading this weekend's engagement encounter. Please say a prayer for the 4 engaged couples making this marriage preparation retreat. Then like this photo so we can tell them about all the people praying for them. Comment below if you're an EE alum. We know there are a large network of others who have been impacted by this special weekend. Also including emojis. Way to go, Jessie. So now we're going to look at faces.
Yes, many faces.
Many faces. And it's kind of fun because they're not really posed. They're all there, they all fit, but they're not superposed or superimposed.
Yes.
How about the story?
Yes. There's a nice story.
There is. And it's a story that connects to other people's stories. How about that conversation?
Yes, if you like the post, ask you to like it, ask you to comment below if you've been on EE. So that's a really direct way of continuing the conversation.
And it was really cool to be there with the couples and tell them, look, we got 23 posts from people who are praying for you deliberately, and they remember their engagement encounter from 1723. Just kidding. But they were like 1970s. People were calling or posting in and saying like, hey, I remember my engagement encounter. And authenticity?
Yes, it's authentic.
Yeah. So we hope that those are just some guides that can kind of help you see how things could be different. We're not going to take you through the activity today to create your own posts, but I will follow up with an email that has questions you can ask yourself as you're creating a post. Everything from what's the purpose of my posts? What kind of picture would I be looking for as I go through my posts? I remember even asking Jillian, how am I supposed to keep up with this? Do you remember what you told me?
Just keep scrolling.
It's true. But also she said, keep an eye out for those moments where you can connect with other people, where you really are in a moment where other people would be interested to be there. So it was really fun 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago. It feels, this Corona thing has me all over the place. So not long ago, we had the right of election in the diocese, and it was so fun to take a moment to step aside with people who were coming into the church and who were excited about being Catholic, and to say, tell me your story. Tell me your story so I can share your story. And they really felt connected to a wider network. And then on top of that, we were connecting other people so that they can kind of look back on the love they had at first.
Yeah. And as we were talking about earlier, you know, this storytelling is so important, not only to create a sense of belonging, but also to make everybody feel like that we're all part of the body of Christ, you know, within our parish, within our diocese, within our universal Catholic faith family. So one way that, again, social media cannot seem such as a burden is if we use these stories in multiple ways. So I want to give you a really concrete example of how we can use these stories both on social media and in other ways in our parishes. So I'm going to give you a little window into my life. When I entered into ministry, I was a youth minister at a parish. The name is St. Dominic, and it's in Shaker Heights, Ohio. And this was the bulletin when I joined the church, and it's probably really reminiscent or looks familiar to many bulletins that either you have or have seen, right? There's a nice logo of the building. There's a letter from the pastor, a list of the staff, what's going on that week, you know, Eucharistic celebrations, right? You might notice like a little text heavy. Then if you go down there, I see some great clip art, you know, we're having a cookout, that's me, okay? So guilty as charged, right? I've used clip art, you know. So that's what the bulletin looked like. And we sat around as a staff one day, and someone had a really great idea of, what if we start telling the story of our parish through the bulletin, rather than just saying this event is going on, contact so-and-so. And we really prayed about it and stretched ourselves, and we had a great team, and we ended up taking the bulletin from looking like this into looking like that. So you see a picture of people, right, at an event that week that happened. You keep scrolling through, and there's the pastor, that's what he looks like. There's the staff, there's their pictures, right, faces. I'm connecting with a picture, a face, literally, than just a name, right? Yep, and there's a last name change there between that last bulletin and that one for me. And then see, more pictures. There's people at a pre-baptism class. Look at all those people there wanting to get their kids baptized. That's so nice. And then we have, again, pictures at the events. Hey, here's Father Tom. He's doing this. He had a lovely time with these people. It was so great. Oh, and then Claire, you know, here's a quote from Claire about how she felt at the, practice for the sacrament of reconciliation. And then, oh, and by the way, if you would like to sign up for this, here's the way to do that, right? So again, many of you might be saying like, wow, like that looks great, but maybe my bulletin, we only have one color, or our publisher only lets us do X, Y, and Z. Let me tell you, a picture of people at your parish in black and white is better than clip art in black and white, right? So even if you feel like we're limited in these ways, you can still show faces, right? You can still tell your stories. Your text can be quotes rather than just here is the day and time for this. So no matter what your publisher situation is with your bulletin, we all have capability to do this at varied levels. And if you're a minister at your parish and you contact your publisher and say, well, how many business sponsors am I away from color? And two, that we all have capability to say, what can we do to get there? Because this is something that's either important to us, or you can ask your parishioners, is this important to you? Could we get another business out there that would be worth us telling the story in this way? Is it worth it to all of us? So it's just another way to open up the conversation. But either way, we most of us have websites out there, and you can put these stories on your websites. And often when we make our bulletins, we get a PDF of them, right? That is in color. And if you have My Parish app or your website, that they'll see then those pictures, those stories in color. So again, don't feel limited. And if you need help with any of that, that's what we're here for as the faith formation team. So again, use that framework for both social media. You could use those stories there, and then use it in your bulletin, or vice versa. All right.
Practical note on pictures. So when do I need a waiver? When do I not need a waiver? All these kinds of things. So you always need a waiver with a minor. The end. Then, if you're talking about adults at a place where it's reasonable to assume that it's a by invitation event, random people aren't coming in off the street, you should contact them and ask them. So you should have some sort of communication with them saying, is it okay if I use this picture? If it's an open event like the Italian Fest, or I don't know,
a block party, or
something like that, something where people are going to be in and out and there is no expectation that you are controlling who is at that event, it's okay to use pictures of adults without permission. However, the purpose is
to tell the story
and connection. So taking a picture of adults and then just using them puts you at the better or the good stage, right? If you want to tell the story, talk to the adult. People like being known. There are a couple people who are very conscious about their privacy, and in that case, posting their picture without talking to them is not going to make you friends either. So you may as well talk to people. Get out there, get to know them, and talk with them. Am I forgetting any? Oh, the waiver, not just any waiver. Use the one on the Child Protection website at Erie RCD.
Yeah.
Am I forgetting anything?
Sounds like you covered it.